Okay, so this morning, my mom messaged me. I don't tell her to go in and watch the news. Just make that clear. I would never tell somebody, go in and watch the news and keep me updated. But she watches it and then she updates me, so I can't do anything about that. I've told her, you don't have to watch this, Mom. Turn the channel. Go outside. Do something different. Especially when she's messaging me, my blood pressure. But we have to recognize that for ourselves. I can tell her all day long, but until she feels it, she's going to keep watching. And sometimes, some people, it makes them feel more like they know what's happening, even though it's all fake and it's all lies. But there is some stuff, that she does notice. So one of the things is this big stuff that's going on still with Disney and the alphabet group, and the alphabet just gets longer and longer. And the who else? There was a few different things, but anyways, there's some drama still going on with this thing about, well, we should have someone else teach our children about their sexuality, because kids don't know how to figure that out on their own. They need adults to come in and tell them. Well, I don't think so, sweetheart. I think that they figure it out all on their own. I remember when my little kids be like 1.5 years old or something, and they start, putting their hands between their legs and rubbing around and stuff like that. I wouldn't shame them or something. I would just go up and politely tell them, hey, you need to go in your room if you're going to do that. That's private. You don't sit out in public doing that. That's a private thing. And, I can't say how they took it, if they felt shame or embarrassed or whatever. But kids know how to do this stuff naturally. We don't need to go in and teach them. Like, that right there just shows the people who want to go in and teach kids, they got something off up in here. And why would we want them to be directing our children of how to behave when these people got a screw loose? And how many people are just turning their kids, I don't know what to do with them. I don't know. I guess they know. Let's have them do it. Where do you want this society to go? They are pushing. One of the things my mom said was Bezos, I guess, he's shooting off his giant penis rocket. I don't know what it looks like, but obviously it looks like a penis flying through the sky. And, everything, just like the tic-tac-toe in the sky, everything is just to be absurd and outrageous and ridiculous, because it's all being exposed. So we're going to see how ridiculous it really is. And there was some other things that she was telling me. Oh, I can't remember all this stuff. Oh, I guess the fraudster's back. And he's pushing, people over 50. Gosh, you're so lucky. We have a new one just for you. Oh, really? Oh, and that couldn't be to just take us out, right? That couldn't just be to finish the job. So, yeah, anybody who's over 50 who doesn't know that they're out to kill you. You know what I was also thinking about? I was thinking about a bunch of different things. I think it's cool that we get to start sharing more perspectives, because we've been so trapped by them wanting to keep us all contained and, shamed and bullied so that we would keep ourselves hidden. But, now we're changing things, and we are exposing ourselves, exposing how we look at things, because things aren't right. Things are off. And, that one little kid, I can't get this kid out of my head. All the time I hear him with the, don't you worry about it, sweetheart. I love that kid. He's like the, one of those commercials that we used to have, where's the beef kind of kid. He's just the cutest little plump little black boy. I don't know what the commercial's about at all, but there's a school bus. So something with kids. And, he's talking to some other kid, and he always says, don't you worry about it, sweetheart. And I just love him, and I love that phrase, and I think that needs to be our catchphrase for everything. Nobody needs to worry about it. Nobody needs to worry about what we're doing. Don't you worry about it, sweetheart. And but when I was thinking about him, it was making me think about how many times I've described somebody, and then been like, why do you have to say that to describe them? Why do you have to say the color of the skin? Why do you have to say like their size or whatever? It's like, well, I'm describing somebody to somebody. Don't you need to use the descriptors so they know who you're talking about, or get a picture in their head? I mean, when you read a book, don't they describe so that you build a picture in your head of a place, a person, an incident, a situation? So, yeah, but they want us to be shamed out of that, you know? How dare you? How dare you notice someone's color of their skin? You shouldn't be noticing that. No, you can notice. You shouldn't be judging that. You shouldn't already have a preconceived notion of what that means. That's where we mess up. We want to generalize. We want to box people up. But there should be nothing wrong with using descriptors to describe somebody. I mean, how absurd you're working with a girl and you're trying to tell her about a guy that is always down in the lobby when you come in. And you're just like, oh yeah, it's just a guy. You know, he's a guy. He's really cute. He wears a suit. He's a guy. I was like, could you be more vague? Well, is it different to say, oh, he's a tall black guy. He's got a beard. He dresses nice. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And I've literally had people say that to me, like, why do you got to say something about the color of their skin or their size or whatever? It's like, well, because I'm trying to tell you what they look like. And like, we shouldn't notice what each other looks like. Well, if we weren't supposed to notice what each other looks like, wouldn't we all look the same? Like, what is wrong with noticing what someone looks like? You're not saying if it's good or bad. You're just saying what someone looks like. The person, the receiver, they are making the judgment or the expectation or, you know, whatever it is, their preconceived ideas. That's coming from within. You know, there's no reason somebody that we don't even know that we would know anything about them. Like, I can hear the washer. It's super loud and it's new too, and it's one of those little tiny ones. But anyways, that's the noise back there. So anyways, you know, when we think about like what somebody looks like, and then we come up with our preconceived notions of what that means, what they look like, you know, because you could take somebody who is homeless, dirty, messy, doesn't seem to give a shit, and go talk to them. They could be completely intelligent, deep, spiritual. Like, you have no idea until you actually talk to a person, because the outside may not match the inside. And that is what we have to start really understanding. There is no generalized person, you know? There is no just, okay, well, every single person who has tattoos is obviously some sort of crazy drug addict. Or every single person who is a young black man is probably on the verge of being a criminal. Like, that comes from inside of here. And what comes inside of here comes from that little box that's used to program us, to give us preconceived notions so that we don't develop relationships and understandings of one another, that we keep guarded, we keep division. So when we put down that division and we actually go over these biases of our preconceived notions and we actually develop relationships, then we find that we have connection with these people, that there isn't really division. The only division is our vibration, is our understanding. It is how we absorb information. That's the only thing that's different about us all. And that is all just, you know, it's where you are on the spectrum of rebirth. It's your soul. It is how your soul understands the world, depending on how it has gone through the many adjustments of being incarnated over and over and over, because you learn and you develop through these incarnations. And right now I've been watching this show called Bridgerton, and I couldn't even stop yesterday. It's like when you are watching something, then you go to bed and you just keep hearing them talk. And that always happens when I'm watching a show where the people have accents, and I'll just start hearing all my thoughts are in accents. So anyways, I was watching that show all day yesterday, totally obsessed. And so I'm still watching it today. And there's a few things that I find fascinating. For one thing, if you haven't ever seen it, it's on Netflix. And of course, as soon as I saw the name on it, I was like, oh God, Chandra? Are you kidding? A Chandra Rhimes show? I don't know if I can handle that. I mean, she is like she loves a platform. She loves to get her, whoever it is. I mean, the thing that's super sad, I mean, and we're seeing it like with Chris Rock and Will Smith and stuff like that. And if you go in and you listen to, I think Larry Gators, and there's some other ones too that go back and they talk about there's like the 13 families that go all the way back that have stayed in without a lot of, they say interbreeding, because they can't allow others to come in, because then, I mean, if they married someone like one of us and we sat down at a dinner table and we're being served, somebody they caught out back, I mean, some of us would be like, what the hell is wrong with you people? So they have to keep their inner circle tight, so they don't allow outsiders in. So it's been a way to protect their selves, a way that the beast can protect itself by keeping the shell and keeping itself intact. So anyways, that group, that 13 families, well, they have the next group. Like if you go and you talk to, or if you go and listen to Larry Gators and stuff, I haven't listened to tons and tons, but I've listened to some, and it is that they took people like an Oprah or something, they found people of other colors to make them powerful, but they always have to do the dirty work for these people, like how the PFzer is using her to promote their new thing and using drama. And just think about this, like, I mean, with the stereotyping of black men, and then, I mean, they just played the part, like this hateful black on black crime or something, but it's right there on the surface, because that is going to be exposed, of what is really going on. But that they played the part for an agenda, for a superpower to get its platform, to bring what they are pushing up to the surface, the alopecia drug. So they all just play this part. And that's what Larry Gators talks about. Like, there was a whole thing about Kobe. Like, there's a lot of stuff. And if you're interested in how all of it links back together and how we could have ever gotten in this position and why certain people do things that don't make any sense, there's a lot of people out there talking about, the history of things and how it all connects. Mel K is so good at talking about, I mean, Jesus Christ, she can sit there. She doesn't even need anything to look at. She could just spout off facts like crazy. Larry Gators is like that too. He's very interesting if you haven't seen him. And, but there's other ones too. I can't think of them all. But anyways, so, I believe Chandra Rhimes is one of those people. Like, here, you push our agenda, we're going to give you some power. And so I don't know how much of her agenda that she pushes is actually on the platform when she's got these characters, going on a rant. How much of it is truly her own beliefs or the agenda that she has to push to have her place at the table. So, you don't really know, because these people hide themselves. They don't show their true inner self because they've gotten into a situation around people where that's not allowed. You reach a certain point in your success, then you're in a party with some really rotten people that are very controlling. Like, it's been shown so many times in the movies and stuff like that, that there's a group of people in control of everything. And you get up close, they're going to control you. And if you don't do what you're told, then you're in trouble. And death is definitely on the table. Torture, anything. So, you know, that's the thing, is like, you don't really know people who are successful what they're really saying, because, you know, they've got an added script that they have to stay on. So anyways, when I saw her name come up, I was like, oh man, I don't know about this show, but I'll go in and I'll watch it. And then right away, you know, I was like, okay, this is not very historically factual. Like, when in the hell back in these times would you have a black person that would have power? Like, this is weird. And all this multiracial couples and stuff like that. It's like, this isn't very historically factual. And so I said this to the person who told me to watch it. And she said, oh yeah, but it's based on a book. And this book is supposed to be about the fantasy of what if we didn't have that being something that was blocking us? What if everybody was just together and color wasn't an issue? But they do say something about color at one point, of that, how the two became, you know, like the powerful black people and the powerful white people became powerful together. So, you know, and that's, you know, the hidden truth of the aristocrats too. But still, they still have a part to play. There's still someone more powerful that is going to keep these people in the parameters of what they're allowed. So in this, you know, okay, so we're having this fantasy where, you know, color doesn't exist, but women are so repressed. We still have this totally thing about the repression of women. So in this fantasy, you know, that aspect is something that I guess they really want to make clear, but we shouldn't think about anything about color. But to me, when I look at stuff about historical things, I look at the growth of humanity, how we've changed, how we've come along, how we've learned and grown from these different situations that have occurred throughout time, which, you know, time isn't even a real thing. So it is throughout this age that we are presently in, the different things that people have learned through the different ages. So the expansion of humanity is the evolution of the human being. And so in this one, something I find so fascinating is that, well, there's a couple things I love. I love this whole idea of courting, someone courting a woman, and this promenade. They would do this promenade, like you would just go walk around. All these different couples would just go walk around the park and talk and everything. And they usually, everyone had to have, what is that called? Somebody who goes with you, a chaperone. They all had to have chaperones. So if it was a couple, you know, usually their moms were with them, and they would just step a few steps back so the people could have a private conversation. But everything was very dignified. You know, you wouldn't go, you know, meet at a bar and hook up in the bathroom. It was very dignified. You know, somebody had to show interest. And for a woman who, you know, who wasn't concerned about that, you know, she would be thought to be low class. You know, the scarlet letter would be put on her, and she, you know, would have a hard time in society because they had such strict parameters of what was acceptable, very strict parameters, to the point where they just lived by the parameters. You know, it wasn't about love. It was about, you know, who would be the best person for you, who would be what they offered. Is that what you want? Like, do they have a nice house? Do they have, are they, most of them, for the gentlemen, did they have honor? You know, were they an asshole to people? Did they cheat people? Did they steal? So a dishonorable man was not a gentleman, and he was just as shunned as a woman who, you know, embraced her sexuality and wasn't concerned with marriage. So these certain things were unacceptable. But souls still came in and played out the parts, you know. I mean, that's what souls do. We come in to play out the parts and see in these parameters what is okay, what isn't okay. And we develop our own ideas of self when we come in and we go through these experiences. And so And this one is, it's so fascinating how much people prioritize things that we no longer prioritize in the way that they were prioritizing. And there's and they have things in this where people are just starting to understand about love. Like love was kind of in the way. If you love somebody, then you could get hurt by them. So why would you even want to be with somebody you loved? There's people who didn't even ever understand love. Like people would have to explain it to them. And sex was definitely not talked about. Women who were, following along with their parents, because the parents kind of set the rules, but the parents made the rules due to society. Like if you were embarrassing them in public, that would be, that's the worst thing you could possibly do, because everything was designed by how others saw you. So what you represented was everything in the, to your social status even. And so, you could be wrecked. If you could be a totally acceptable family, and then all of a sudden you have a son who's a drunk, who is out doing things, maybe he's fighting, maybe he's whoring around, maybe he's cheating, lying, stealing, whatever it is, that could destroy a family. Like they didn't look at it as like an individual. It was a family's problem, which in essence, or, there is a component to that, but that is part of what we're learning right now, is how important it is, what we teach our kids, and the connection. It's the emptiness that kids feel is where they go out and, go outside of their home to look for safety, to look for acceptance, to look for companionship. All of these different things. They shouldn't be having to go out of their nucleus at a young age. And so, but that's part of our development, and that's part of what we're learning now. What I am saying is going to be different for our future, because we are going to have a different concept about family and our roles in the family and stuff like that. And so, and also in this, they wear these beautiful, beautiful dresses. And so it was making me think about, like, why did we stop wearing dresses? I even had talked about this before, like my grandma, back for them, they would have on a pretty dress and they'd have heels on and they'd be in there cooking dinner. Like, what happened? Why did that stop? And I was thinking, I think it stopped because of all of the war, of taking men out of the dynamic, especially the men that were the young fathers, or the ones that were the potential fathers, the ones that were going to develop young families, and put them in war and kill them. And so then women had to step in. They had to start, figuring out how to take care of themselves, figure out how to take care of their families. They had to put on some pants and get out there and work in the plants. They had to do hard work too. Because back in the days where there was like farmers and stuff, back when there was the settlers and stuff and they were out farming and stuff, women would still have on a long skirt. They didn't go put on their husband's pants. That would have been just like, if a woman would have been like, go put on her husband's pants, she would have been, who was that girl? There was a girl, I don't know why these are names like we grew up on, well, my era, that we grew up on. Man, who was that? It was a girl who, she was like a cowgirl, and she was a really good shot, and she could be up there with the rest of them. And I'm picturing the one guy who, damn it, I wish I could think of these names, but he was real famous for being a really good shot. And he's still, his name, if I could remember it, you'd still know, well, I don't know. Young kids may not know who it is, but, for us who are older, what they were teaching us in school, that we would know. And then plus we grew up on those cowboy and Indian movies. There was so much with the cowboy movies, and there was some movies too, like Tombstone. There's been recent Western movies that would have had these same people in them. So it was just those famous people. But that girl, I don't know. She could have even worn a dress sometimes. But, it was more girls like that that would be, trying to break barriers, that would have been put on some britches because she was going out with the guys. But normally women were always kind of secluded into their wardrobe and having to follow by the society's parameters of how they dress. Like a woman wouldn't have gone and put on pants and gone to a ball. So, and it was really hard for women who felt different to be so restricted when they have that in this too. Because the one sister, she has no interest in trying to catch a man and do all that stuff. She wants to be a spinster. That's what they would call them if you weren't married. This one lady's 26 years old and they're saying she's a spinster because she's not married. Can you imagine? I mean, look at how far we've come from that. Women cannot get married if they don't want to get married now. And they can go out and work and be successful. They have more room to explore what they want to do with their lives. So that has opened up more for women. And I think that there was a reason why women started having to take on more masculine roles. It was because they were taking all of the men from the women during certain times, during war and stuff. And they're trying to do it right now. I mean, that is killing a lot more men than it is women, apparently. So even super healthy ones, all these sports guys and stuff. So, they know how to target certain what was that? It is certain things that I can't. Man, I'm having a hard time thinking today. Certain inside of our bodies, like I said, it's like a domino effect of how everything goes with everything else. So they know how to interfere with that. And we're all a little different. And so they know how to target certain races. They know how to target certain genders. They know how to do all this stuff because they're far more advanced. They're doing it on purpose. This isn't by accident. We're experiment, but they know what they're doing. And, they've been experimenting on us for forever. And so anyways, with this movie, I was thinking about, how much we've developed now that we focus more on wanting love. Like people weren't getting married for love back then. They were getting married for status, for safety, for, like you couldn't have kids if you didn't have a husband. And if your husband died and you didn't have, you weren't set, like somebody's husband died in this, and then cousin comes and is going to take over the house. If you marry somebody else, you can be kicked out of your house. So, it wasn't just a safe place. Even if you were more in this aristocrat kind of crowd, you still could be pushed out. And I'm not talking about the 13 family crowd, but they've got their own isolated world. But I'm talking about the people who, and they all had titles. Titles were so important, just the same with the labels. They had to have titles. If someone had a title, that made them a better person or something, because they weren't looking deeper into the person. And it wasn't of a concern. If you could get a guy with a title, then you would get to be somebody with a title. And that was important. But then, where it's starting to show, like, where people are like, well, what about love? What about, like, if you feel love for somebody and, but you're supposed to marry this person, but you love this person, then what do? How do you figure that out? That's what the soul is there to explore and understand. Like, do I choose status? Do I choose labels? Do I choose love? Do I choose my own happiness? That's what souls are there to try and understand and develop. And that's why it's kind of a slow process, because we're all doing it, and it's all of us shifting that creates the shift for the collective. And so with these, now to me, it seems that we've reached this point where people are building relationships off of lust. They feel lustful about somebody and they think it's love, because we don't have those kind of parameters anymore, where I remember even when I was growing up, there was a saying that was always, don't give away the milk or they won't buy the cow. And, you know, when you're a young person, you're just like, what are you talking about? Now, as an older person, now I get what they're saying. Oh, I get it now. But when you're young, it's like, okay, I don't know what you're talking about, especially if you go to a party and you've got, you know, the cutest boy in town putting pressure on you. You know, are you going to sit there and go, oh, no, you know, you don't get this milk unless you buy the cow. Like, put a ring on it, dude. No, you know, we had shifted from that kind of, you know, to go to another exploration for human beings. And this is the process that we are kind of coming out of, is this, and plus how much of it was being misdirected. You know, they've been trying to create perversion and deviant behavior. You know, they've been trying to create Sodom and Gomorrah because they just want little, you know, they want their Sodom and Gomorrah. And if we accept it, then, you know, we can all lay around having orgies all day while they're, you know, stealing the kids. So that is where we have to recognize that. We have to see, like, is this really good? Is this good? You know, is it good to just, you know, go to an orgy? Do I come out of it feeling good about myself? Do I come out of it feeling like a more wholesome person? And what am I putting out into the world? You know, and there's so much to the deviant and sexual problems that they've created in this world. I mean, you know, you could talk forever about that stuff because there's so much of it, and it's on, you know. Oh, and the other day when I said branches, I kept on thinking limbs. No, limbs are off of us. But then I started thinking, no, limbs are also, they call tree limbs. So there is limbs, but I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? So anyways, everything like that sexual deviancy branches out in so many different directions, just as everything does, because it's all different souls that are involved. So, and everyone's here to learn and explore different things, to have a deeper, just gonna go past, hold on. Don't you worry about it, sweetheart. I love that. So, and he's the cutest kid. Oh my God, that kid's cute. So anyways, when we have developed into this like lust leading us, that is where we haven't fully developed ourselves. We haven't healed, we haven't grown, and then we're looking for someone else, you know, that we feel all sexy about, to come in, and then we assume, well, if we feel sexy about him, it must be love. That must be what it is. So let's get married to him. Let's have kids. And then you're in a marriage and you're like, who the fuck are you? I don't even know you. Like, I didn't know you thought like this. I didn't know you believed this. And then you start and raise kids together, especially when you have two people who have their own childhood wounds that they haven't even healed yet. And then they're coming together to argue about these kids, what to do with them. And you got, you know, and always when you're in a partnership, you can see what the other person can't see about themselves. But people don't want to hear what somebody is saying to them. Just like what I was saying yesterday. It's like, don't tell me about my reality. You know, you stick to yours. You don't know anything about mine. You don't know what's inside of me. You don't know what I'm looking at. You don't know what I'm thinking about. You don't know how I feel about it. So that has become kind of tumultuous in relationships, right? It has become where people get divorced. I mean, the amount of divorce is, you know, off the charts. I mean, we know that divorce wasn't even allowed for, you know, the general public for so long, even in a strict social structure. Even when I was a kid and I moved in with a guy, I was 20, and I moved to California. You know, this guy who wrote me poems. He wrote me poems. I had to marry him, right? But I wasn't going to marry him. I was just going over there to, you know, I wanted to get away from my home. I wanted to go somewhere different. So going to California, that seemed like a great idea. And move in with this guy. And, you know, I had no idea what the fuck I was doing or where it was going to lead me. But it was shameful to my family. I'm living in sin. I'm not even married. And it was a lot more shameful, I think, to my dad, because my mom had already gotten divorced. She had already lived with somebody, and he was much younger. So she was already breaking these parameters that were set. And, I've talked about that whole thing before, about that whole thing, what happened with my parents and all of that stuff. And, but so she wasn't as judgmental, but my dad was embarrassed. I'm really embarrassed. Like, oh my God, my daughter's a whore. She's living with some guy. She hasn't even married him. They're living out of wedlock. That's shameful. And I mean, that was a real thing in my lifespan. The people nowadays who go in and just live with people all the time, they don't understand what barriers we had to break to be the first ones to do it. There was those of us who had to break those barriers. And that's why when they're sitting there judging different generations, the boomer generation was a very significant generation to where we are right now. And I saw, this one, that show that I talked about before, the one with the comedians. I'm dying up here. And I loved this thing that was going on with the mom and the daughter, because I have all daughters and I definitely recognize those fights. So there's this one really good one where the mom is she's tore up, and she is, saying how sorry she is to the daughter, and she's apologizing for what she sees. She was trying to do everything right, and it was never right. It was never good enough. She couldn't be there. She couldn't do this, and now her daughter hates her and stuff. So it was really, I thought it was really good. So I shared it on TikTok, this little clip, and oh my gosh, the reactions to that clip, and they're on both sides of the table, completely on both sides of the table. But one thing is how many of these, there's a commercial for Making a Murderer. There's a new one, I think, of Stephen Avery. Man, I don't even understand. There's so much with our judicial that's just so disgusting. But anyways, so I swear to God, I just go and look away for 1 second. What the hell was I talking about? So in that clip, all of these reactions, right? And there's all of these young people who are so angry at those of us who are the parents, thinking that we destroyed their lives. We destroyed them. We made their life so hard. We made their childhood so hard. And I want to just be like, what the hell? Why would you think your childhood should be easy, for one thing? I mean, whoever told you that your childhood was going to be easy? I don't know anybody who has had an easy childhood. I mean, most of us have had hard childhoods. And, for them to think that is so entitled right there, to think that, to not go back and look and see what the other people have had to go through and what we've had to go through to get us to this point of entitlement, to think we deserve to have a perfect childhood. Yeah, parents may have not been perfect, and it has been a part of our human history as we expand, as we evolve into a higher state of consciousness. But yeah, we've gone through some hard times as kids, no doubt about it. I mean, you go back, you can just go back as far as you can in generations. There's not been a time period. It's not like, oh, everyone had a great childhood, and then all of a sudden, this generation, I don't know which one they're talking about, Z, X, boomers, I don't know. I think mostly all they do is make fun of boomers, which is weird because I was never even a boomer when I was growing up, and now suddenly I'm a boomer. But that the boomers are just, like, get rid of those stupid assholes. But these other ones, I don't know, the Z's and the X's, I guess, who are parents of these younger people, then they have, failed them. The latchkey kids, them raising kids, I guess, them. And when you look at the different priorities that we've had over this evolution of our state of being, then there was a development. You know, we had to go in and see, like, well, if both parents are out trying to work and make a good life for their kids, then what's going on with their kids? You know, their kids are being left alone. So what's more important? Is it more important for you to go out and try and make money, be on the clock, and, you know, get all those pieces of paper? Is it more healthy for the child, or is it more healthy for the child to just be with their parents? And is it healthy for a child to be sent to an indoctrination center all day long? Like, people think like, oh, that was so horrible that they'd send them off to boarding schools and have someone else raise their kid. Well, that's exactly what we're doing when we send them to an indoctrination camp for their education, and they're coming out of it and not having any skills whatsoever. You know, whatever they can, you know, tell us about gender identity. Oh, that was another thing my mom said that she had seen where they were, I think it was the OAN. She switches around on the channels. The OAN was making fun of gender reveal parties and saying, you know, that we're going to have the gender re-reveal parties. I was like, yeah, that's what they want. That's how they would have it, is, you know, because God doesn't know what he's doing. And you are your own God. So you chose the body that you came in. It is your soul that feels uncomfortable, because your soul has no sexual identity. Your soul, it comes in and plays different roles. So, you know, maybe it's played a lot of roles as a male, and you come in as a female, and so all of a sudden, okay, wait a minute, something's off here. Why am I in this body? I don't feel like I'm supposed to be in this body. Well, you came in for that body, for that experience, because you had to go and play all the different parts. So, but that's something that we needed to start developing, and that's our hidden truths, you know, our hidden truths about reincarnation and our purpose and why we're here and what we're learning and everything. So they can get you to just be like, oh, you don't like the body you're in? Oh, let's work with that. You know, and they go this whole direction of where they're taking us to this, you know, whitewashed droid, don't see color, don't have any identifying anything about yourself. You know, you're just a sheep. That's all they want. And, you know, and that's a big thing to break free from, because we're witnessing it as this is all going down, you know, how much, and we can't judge others, because we've all played the part. We've all been in it. No matter what things we were awakened to throughout our life, we still continue to play the part. So, you know, there's no reason that we should be saying somebody else is less than us because they're still playing the part. You know, they just haven't seen yet. And each soul has to see it for themselves. You can try and show them all day long. They're not going to see it until their soul shows them. And their soul has it already set out. It's already in their plan. It's already in their contracts. All the little seeds that we drop will sprout the day that they're supposed to. So that we have no control. You know, that's the kind of thing. We have to allow things to unfold for everybody. We can't force it, because, you know, it's a development. You can't force your child. If your child is slow to develop with talking or something, you can't force them to suddenly be able to talk. You have to allow them to develop the skill. I had one daughter who, she wouldn't talk to anybody. She was 3 years old, and her grandma, my mom, would sit there and go like, she won't even talk to me. I don't think she likes me. Well, she was just, you know, she's a very, I don't want to say fragile person, because it's not about fragility. It's about your soul. It's about how your soul, like, to me, she had her soul very out there. You know, she was out there, you know, somebody who has it exposed, and then, but they've got to stay guarded because it's scary. And then, you know, a lot of people that they will, you know, build a cage around themselves because it is scary. It's a hard place to be. And that's what we have to give everyone respect for, is this is a very difficult incarnation. And especially right now, because just like I was saying, people don't want to see themselves. Like, so that's what has caused so many divorces. People don't want to see themselves through someone else's eyes. And that's what this whole process is going to make things clear, is a mirror. It's going to be like, you will have to see yourself. People will have to see their own biases, their own judgmental behavior, what has kept them divided from all of us, because this is a coming together as a collective. This is us breaking down our own biases and our own judgments against others so that we can come together as a like-minded group. And that doesn't mean that we're all going to still be on the same vibration. Like I said before, I think communities are going to develop with like-minded people who think like, huge co-op gardening is what is the central thing for a community, and we should all take part in that. And then other ones who could think like, no, these people will do this and these people will do that, and everybody will have a different part. Like, everybody's going to develop their community how they want it to be. And that's why there would be so many different communities and so many different places to go so that you can find your own place. So it's not going to be like we all have to be alike. This is becoming individual, but then finding your people, just like your tribe. Like, all of the different Indian tribes that were in America, they weren't all exactly the same. You had nomadic ones, you had ones that stayed where they were, you had ones that were warring, you had all different ones. We're moving out of the warring though. But you had different ones with different philosophies, different mission statements or whatever. So, this will be a time when we do tend to go with people who we understand and we're on the same wavelength as, and that we have something in common with. And it's not about exclusion, it's about inclusion, but it's about being truthful and honest with yourself so that you know who are my people. And if you don't like your group of people who you tend to jive with, then maybe it's something in you that you need to start developing and understanding more so that you can be more with the people who you see yourself as, And if you're drawn to a certain group, then that is like your soul's desires. It's like, tune in to your own desires. Or is it ego? Like, I think these people are better, so I'm going to go and hang out with these people. Like, you want to be with people who are on your level, on your wavelength. And if you go and spend time with people who aren't, then you'll understand why there's nothing wrong with wanting to be with people who are. Because what is the point of sitting and talking? I have this experience so much around here with, people that I'm not on their wavelength. They're not on my wavelength. We have totally different philosophies of life. And like my mom, she's religious, but she's my mom. So of course I'm going to talk to her. I'm going to respect her. I'm going to respect anybody for their beliefs. But that doesn't mean that I want to sit and have conversations about something I don't believe. Yeah, I've heard it. I understand where people are coming from, and how to me, it's how they are taught to think. It's something that they just haven't broken free from or broken through yet, because, I see all of that stuff as just being part of the controlling aspect of this planetary system that we are living in. This reality is how they used religion to control people, and how many people, spiritual people who were looking for something, and that was all there was. So you had to really break parameters, like I said before. For me to break free from religion at 20 years old and to say, no, I'm going to go for the spiritual because this doesn't make sense to me. I don't believe God is an angry God. I believe God is a loving God. And then, you develop that. You go in and you look stuff up and you try and understand, because I can no way see God as being an angry God. That's why I even say, it's like people accept God as the devil. Like it's like the same, when you talk to them, because how could there be somebody that would feel like that towards you, that wanted to punish you forever in the flames of hell because you didn't say, you know, Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. You know, I mean, that just never, ever made sense to me. So anyways, the past generations have been breaking these parameters and these restrictions through our lives. Every single one has had a sense of our development, has played a part. And that is why we just need to recognize that we all play a part. We all fit together. And, you know, holding on to like, well, you should have done this different. Well, you should have done that different. It is not productive. It's not getting us anywhere. We have to release that. Look at it through the historical state of being and how we have evolved. And recognize that there is true change. There is true development. And we are headed to a place that is going to be us as the creators. As this world collapses, we will be the creators of the new one. So anyways, that was a whole bunch of long-winded stuff. Hopefully it was making sense. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.